Hey all, Jason Levon, priest at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Welcome to another edition of Pause and Pray. The 14th century Persian poet Hafiz, who celebrated the gifts of joy and love as being really the central ingredients to a happy and healthy life, wrote a beautiful poem where he writes, "O wondrous creatures, by what strange miracle do you so often not smile?" Words that reflect the importance of smiling a bit more in our lives, because we all know how tough and difficult and rigid and serious life can become. And there's a place for all of that, but we also know how important it is in the midst of that to find that softened by a smile. My partner Christy has a way of enfleshing the wisdom of that poem by Hafiz, albeit not in as poetic a way, but a way that's just as effective. Her children and grandchildren will quote her often whenever they find themselves coming up against how difficult life can be, how hard life can be, and the rigidity of life, and the struggle and the pain and the heartache that can come from that. When tears are welling up and the pouting is about to begin, Christy will often say to them, "I hear it. I hear a smile. I know I hear it." And it might take some prompting, but undoubtedly a smile will creep to the surface. And Christy says that not to diminish the heartache and the hurt and the difficulty and rigidity of life, but to soften it enough so that then it can be processed and worked through in a way that's more healthy and leads to more wholeness. That kind of love that's able to cut through life's rigidity and soften it, even if just for a moment, is a holy and sacred love. It's the love enfleshed by Jesus, and it's a love that we're challenged to enflesh in our own lives. We hear that profound challenge in the gospel that we are given for today's Eucharistic readings. It comes from chapter 6 of Luke's gospel, where Jesus ushers that radical challenge to us to live in a way that always works to soften a hard and brutal and harsh world and life. To live in a way that offers the other cheek when one is struck, as Jesus said. To hold back from judging or condemning, and to give expecting nothing in return. Now, I don't know about you, but I struggle royally to live that out. For some strange and unhealthy reason, I fall into the trap of thinking if I just hold on to this anger and resentment, I can then have power over somebody else, or maybe think I'm better than them. If I give something but expect a return, I can think I'm better than them and that they then owe me for that. Or I can live with all sorts of self-righteousness that leads me to judge and label so quickly, because that's a lot easier than actually trying to understand another person. But I also know in my own life that when I come up against life's hardships and how rigid and difficult life can become, the only gift that helps me navigate all that well is the kind of love that's able to step into all of that and soften that rigidity. The kind of love that's enfleshed by dear friends who sit with me in my struggle and heartache and don't judge or condemn, but just sit there with empathy and a listening ear. The kind of love enfleshed by people who offer a helping hand to me, knowing that I could never repay it because I got nothing to give in that moment. That's the only kind of love that has ever helped me navigate the hardships of life. Today, we're invited to pause and pray about the ways in which we've encountered that sacred love at work in our lives, cutting through life's hardship and rigidity, not in a way that takes any of that away, but rather in a way that can enter deeper than all of that hardship and rigidity, and their work to surface a peace and a gentleness and maybe even a smile in the midst of it all. And today, we also pray for the grace, as we find ourselves living in an all too harsh and hard and dark world, to be instruments of that same love and stand in wondrous awe as wondrous creatures, as Hafiz's poem suggests, smiling at the grace that's able to soften our hardship and then flow through our lives to be at work softening the hardship of others. God's peace and blessings to you all.